Hey, hello everybody. A couple days ago I put on Facebook if people would be interested in hearing a little bit about how I've been dealing with depression and anxiety, and quite a few people responded saying that they would really like to hear my story. Maybe I can help other people. I want to state right off the bat that I am by no means posting this video to complain or to get sympathy or for people to feel sorry for me. It's actually, I have to admit, it's going to be kind of a hard video to make, a little bit embarrassing to talk about, because I really for a while was very low, and I didn't really talk about it a lot on Facebook. I mean, I would mention it a little bit that I was dealing with it. I would never really get into the details because it's a little embarrassing to talk about. But I have been getting some messages from people just saying or sharing with me that they've been dealing with depression and anxiety as well, and how they just really are amazed with how open I am about it, or they think that I'm so strong, which I really don't feel like I'm strong at all, but I mean, that's really sweet that people, you know, think that I am. And then I've also had some people message me trying to help as well, help me. Some people who have dealt with it in the past and are on the other side of it now. So I just thought that I would make a video and just kind of explain how I've been doing. And I also want to say that I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Like this is just my experience. I'm just going to be, you know, talking about my experience and things that have helped me and things that have not helped me. So yeah, let's just get right into it. So most of my friends will know, actually, if you're friends with me on Facebook, you most likely know that for the past 13 years I've struggled with an eating disorder, and that obviously started when my parents got divorced. I've been able to deal with it, and it ebbs and flows. I go through periods of doing really well, periods of not doing so well. And also, when my parents got divorced, I did struggle with depression then, which was situational. Obviously, my whole world was, you know, turned upside down. So 12 years ago-ish, I started taking antidepressants. I was on Zoloft, and at the time that really worked for me, just to kind of get me out of that situational depression of huge life change and my parents' divorce. Before Whitney and I started dating, I wasn't doing very well. I was very depressed, and my eating disorder was not doing very well either. But when Whitney and I started dating and then eventually, you know, got married, things got a lot better for me. I felt like I had a purpose. I, you know, gained some weight, which was good for my body. Yeah, and so with Whitney, I was doing very well. When we moved to Paris, most of you know that I started struggling again with my eating disorder and with depression. I don't really know what it was. I know I've talked about this before with the eating, that when we got there, I kind of freaked out because I felt like we were on vacation. And for someone who struggles with an eating disorder, when you go on vacation, you get a little anxious because you are eating more food than you normally would, and your food choices are a lot different than your safe foods that you tend to stick with, that I definitely tend to stick with. So I freaked out a little bit when we got to Paris, just being like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna gain so much weight here because the food is amazing. So I started losing quite a bit of weight when we were there. And then in, I don't know, it was probably beginning of April of last year is when the depression started. And I don't really know, I don't know what set it off. I really don't. It was very hard to feel so depressed in a city that I love. That who gets the chance to live in Paris for a year? Like, really beat myself up because I was like, I'm in my dream city. I, you know, can go see the Eiffel Tower anytime I want, like, and all I want to do is lay in bed and not go out of the apartment. I would just cry and cry and cry for no reason. So then it was like a cycle, because I'm like, why am I feeling this way in my dream city? Like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. So then I beat myself up, and then it just was like an endless cycle. So that was very hard to deal with in your dream city, in this, you know, you're in this opportunity that not very many people get to experience, and here I am laying in bed crying, feeling sorry for myself. Like, after about, I don't know, a month or so of dealing with that in Paris, I started taking Plexus, which really, really helped. It got me out of that funk of not wanting to get out of bed and just crying and crying. And I should mention also that, you know, obviously in being in Paris, walking is just amazing to experience the city, to see everything, and it's obviously way more enjoyable than riding the busy metros. So Whitney and I would do a lot of walking in Paris. I mean, some days up to 10 miles we would walk. And so when I was really dealing with the depression, I couldn't even walk like to the grocery store, which honestly was like a block away, maybe, if that. So that was also very hard, because I just wanted to walk and experience my city, and I couldn't. So when I started taking Plexus, I noticed my energy levels just skyrocketing. I was able to walk 10 miles a day again. That was like the beginning of summer, so it was just perfect timing when I started feeling better in Paris. And then, I don't know, like, I think the depression started back up the end of summer. We had a lot of guests that visited us. Both Whitney and my mom, they visited us at the end of July, beginning of August, and when they left, it was kind of like, that was like our last, you know, big planned thing of having guests come and visit us. So it was kind of sad. We did have other guests that made last minute plans to come see us towards the end of our stay in Paris. So my mom wasn't the last one. But the depression started back up a little bit then, and I mean, it definitely wasn't as bad as it was at the beginning of the summer or spring, but it was there again. Then fast forward to November when we came home. This is where it's going to be really hard to talk about, because this is when I really, really was not doing well. So when we came home, to be honest, to be 100% honest, I kind of had always looked at living in Paris as my last hurrah type of thing. I didn't think I was going to live anymore. I had this just this feeling that I was gonna die either in Paris or, you know, like maybe right when we got home. So coming home, it was hard, because it was like I had looked forward to that for so long, and I'm gonna start choking up. I had looked forward to going to Paris for so long, and as ready as Whitney and I were to come home, just being tired of certain things in Paris, the busyness, the loudness, the difficulty with the language barrier, it was hard to come home, because Paris will always be my city. Even though I really struggled there, even though it was a lot harder living there than I ever would have imagined, yeah, it's my city, and my heart will always sort of be there. So we came home the middle of November, and we were living with my in-laws at the time. We lived with them until the beginning of February when we got our own apartment. I can't talk about this. This is hard. The first big instance was the Saturday after we got home. I was dealing with jet lag, I couldn't sleep, so I got up super early in the morning and just took a bath. And when I took a bath, I ended up cutting because I was extremely anxious and extremely depressed. And Whitney found me in the bathtub. That really, I think, scared Whitney and my in-laws. Obviously, that is not something you ever want to have to walk in on. So when that happened, Whitney was like, we need you to see a doctor and we need you to get on antidepressants. So I ended up going to see a doctor and got put on Zoloft again. I was also referred to a therapist. However, the Zoloft had worked for me 12 years ago, and this time it did not work for me. There were days when I just could not stop crying. I would just be laying in a ball in bed and I could not stop sobbing for no reason. I had no reason to cry that hard and that much, but I could not stop. And I was so extremely tired. All I wanted to do was lay in bed. I had no desire to do anything that I had once enjoyed doing. I always think about how I was editing so many of my Paris pictures, and when I was really depressed, I didn't even want to do that or anything that I had once liked to do. All I really wanted to do all day, every day, was lay in bed and stare at the ceiling. And I couldn't be around people. I didn't want to be around people. Whitney would never know what she was going to come home to from work. She didn't know if she was going to find me if I had cut, or if I was going to be in a good mood, be able to talk to her, not be able to talk to her, find me passed out. She never knew what she was going to come home to because I was so low. So, this is so hard. Okay, sorry, my camera started running out of battery, so I quick charged it a little bit. So, yeah. Okay, where was I now? So I started Zoloft at the end of November, and the beginning of December, per my therapist and doctor's recommendation, they really didn't want me to be left alone very much because I was basically pretty suicidal, just for my own safety. But it was a Monday and my mother-in-law was at work, Whitney was at work, and my father-in-law, he drives ambulance, and he got a call and had to do a transfer. This is going to be hard to talk about. I told very few people what happened because I was pretty embarrassed. So this is going to be hard to say. I took a bath and I took a lot of Tylenol PM, and I took some sleeping pills, and I took some other pills I don't even really remember, and I took it all with some alcohol in the bath. And I got out of the bath and started watching some Netflix and blacked out. I do not remember anything. Whitney and my mother-in-law weren't hearing from me, so they got a little nervous, scared, and my father-in-law decided to stop over at the house with the ambulance just to check on me, and ended up finding me on the floor unresponsive. So the good thing he drives ambulance. Paramedics came down there, worked on me, took me out to the ambulance on a stretcher. This is just what I've been told because I do not remember that at all. When I finally started waking up and coming coherent again, I was in the hospital in the ER. Whitney and my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law and my father-in-law were all there, and I basically was like, what happened. Like, I have no idea what happened. So thankfully I was okay with that situation. Freaked everybody out, definitely, and extremely embarrassed by it. I don't really know why I did it. I just, honestly, when you are feeling so depressed and anxious, and I was not even there. I was so not there. Not thinking clearly, it's so hard to describe. When I think back on it, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm better right now, because I still struggle with different things, but I'm definitely not where I was, that is for sure. So when I think back on that time, I just realized I call myself, I was crazy. I really was just so irrational and not even present, really. Okay, so going on from there, I was still taking Zoloft, and it was not doing anything. It kind of made me feel worse. I was still having days where I couldn't get out of bed, and I was just crying nonstop. So I really was like, I need to switch meds. This is not doing anything for me. So per my doctor, I switched to escitalopram, which is also Lexapro. And it's so weird because 12 years ago, when I started taking antidepressants when my parents divorced, the first antidepressant that I was given was Lexapro. And it did not work. I was crying all the time. I felt worse. And so I switched to Zoloft, and that was a great switch. And yeah, and the Zoloft then really worked, and the Lexapro didn't. And now it just goes to show that our bodies change, and our, chemicals in our bodies. Yeah, so I switched to Lexapro, and that was like immediate difference. Like, I did not feel 100%, but I definitely had more days where I felt more myself, or at least I had days where for a few hours I could be around people, or like little tiny baby steps. So the Lexapro really started making a difference. However, it was definitely a slow process, and I still was very erratic some days. Erratic, is that the word? I was up and down constantly. I would have days where I felt good or fine, and then other days where I just was not myself, and I was cutting a lot. I was still having some days where I was taking too many pills, and my mother-in-law and Whitney has both found me a few times like completely out of it, and I was not. It's so hard to talk about because I feel really bad. I hate that I put my family through that, not knowing what they were gonna find when they would come downstairs and come into the bedroom, or just being so scared for my life. I feel really bad, and it's hard to talk about this because I am embarrassed, and it was not ever for attention or for people to feel sorry for me. It just, when you feel so incredibly depressed, and every ounce of you just does not want to live anymore, but you feel so guilty for feeling that way because because you have a great life, and you have a great family, and a great wife, and a great dog, and there's no reason to feel that way. Like, there's no reason for anybody to feel that low and to want to end their life. And it's the worst feeling ever. It's so hard. but with perseverance and recognizing those little baby steps, and focusing on the good, and even when you don't want to, and trying really hard for your friends and family, even when you don't want to live anymore. I did not realize that this is going to be so hard of a video to make, that I was going to cry. Sorry. Okay, alright, so, try to compose myself now. I can't speak for my family, but I know that it was very hard for them to watch me just spiral out of control. I can't believe that I ever felt that way, or ever felt as low as I did. On top of all of that, in January I got mono, and it was the Epstein-Barr strand of mono, and that really shook things up too, because I felt so crappy. For the longest time, I thought that there had to be something else wrong with me, and I wanted so desperately for there to be like a medical reason for why I was feeling the way I was. Because when you feel so low, you can't stop crying, like you start panicking over stupid little things and getting yourself like basically hyperventilating. It's like you feel so crazy, like you feel like there has to be something else wrong. It's not just depression and anxiety. And you know, for some people maybe there is something else wrong, and maybe there is something else wrong with me. I really do want to get this figured out. I have so much fatigue and I just don't feel like myself yet. But I am way better than I was a few months ago. There's no doubt about that, which is a huge relief. Even though I am way better than I was a few months ago, it's still a process and it's still a daily struggle. Last week I had a day that I was not feeling very well, and I still had this weird impending doom feeling, which can come with depression and anxiety. It's like a feeling in the pit of your stomach that just nerves, and I've just felt so nervous for no reason, and then just had this feeling of impending doom. That's the phrase that I use, and it's hard to describe, and I don't know why. Why there's some days that I still get that. But I think that the takeaway from this whole long story of what I've been going through, for anybody else out there that is struggling with depression and anxiety, my biggest thing that I would want to say to them is, even though I know, when I was really bad, being around people was the last thing I wanted. I didn't want to see friends. I didn't want to be around even Whitney sometimes, which is horrible. When you feel so shitty, excuse my language, that you don't even want to be around your spouse because you feel like you're bringing them down. I would pull myself away from her, but it was not because I didn't love her. It was because I felt like I was a poison. I felt like when she would hug me, that I was my poison was getting on her. And here I go again with the tears. So I know that when you feel so low and you don't want to be around people, I know that feeling. But surround yourself with people, because it is not good for you to be alone when you feel so low. Even if that's the only thing you want. Make sure you are around people who love and support you. I get so choked up. And let them help you. Let them help you. They want to help you, and it's so easy to push them away and to not want them to help you because you feel like a burden, or you feel like you're a failure, like you're never gonna get better. Like some days it felt like I was never gonna get out of it, or my family was always gonna have to deal with poor little depressed Kira, and it's just a bunch of negative self-talk, and you have to stop that. But it's so hard. I know it is so hard. It's like this cycle, like you just beat yourself up because you feel so low and you don't want to, but you can't change. So surround yourself with people and let them help you. And recognize the baby steps. Even if they are the smallest little things, see them and recognize them and celebrate them. Even if you feel like stupid or silly for little baby steps that you notice in yourself, try not to, because I know for myself, I would think, oh, I took Mona for a walk today, and that seems like a really little thing, but a month ago I couldn't take her for a walk. So just recognizing those little tiny baby steps and celebrating them, and it's all right if they're teeny tiny. I would also really encourage anybody who's struggling with depression and anxiety to seek medical help. I am not one to go to the doctor. I hate going to the doctor. When we came home, I recognized that I can't keep living like this. I don't like taking medication, but sometimes it is very necessary. And when I was taking Zoloft before, it's like 12 years ago, it was definitely situational. Obviously, I said that before. And this time it was, it could be situational, but it was also, I know I had a huge chemical imbalance. So it is important to go see a doctor, to talk to them about your options of different medications. And you might have to try different ones and find the right one for you, because what works for somebody may not work for you. So to find the one that works best with your body is important. And it's okay to take medication. It's necessary sometimes. For me, it was definitely necessary, and I still take Lexapro. I don't plan on stopping anytime soon because I know that it helps me, and I'm still not 100% better. So I know I still need to keep taking it. What else would I suggest to people struggling with depression and anxiety? Oh, I know. Find something that gives you joy and that you enjoy doing, and do it. But know that it's okay if you can't do it at first. What I mean by this is, when I was really, really, really low, I couldn't do anything. And as I started getting better, I started crafting again, and that keeps me busy, that keeps my mind busy, and I love crafting. So it's okay at first if you can't do anything. Just watch Netflix, watch your favorite movie over and over and over, just to keep your mind busy. And for me, even I couldn't even watch movies. I would try and just had no desire to even watch a movie. But once I got on the medication that worked for me, I could start watching, things to keep me busy. And now crafting is my go-to thing, and it keeps me busy, and it makes me happy. And it feels good. It feels good to do something that I enjoy doing and to be able to do it. So give yourself time. Know that it's okay if you can't do it at first, and be patient with yourself. Even things like listening to music, I was starting to do that a lot when I was really low, just to keep my mind busy instead of like letting my mind go in that dark place. By having music playing either in my headphones, or I would play it through the TV sometimes too, it was good for me just to have something else besides my mind going crazy. Another big part of this for me, I have not found a job yet since we got home, and that's hard for me because I feel really guilty for not working. But when we first got home, my therapist and my doctor were like, don't even think about that, because right now you need to focus on your recovery, and it is okay that you are not working. It's still really hard for me to accept that. Whoa, that was a big crash. What the heck? Oh, it's just the garbage truck. I get the benefits of having a job to keep your mind busy, to make you feel good about yourself for doing something, but I also get how when you are dealing with depression and anxiety, you don't have the energy to have a job. And I still don't feel like I have the energy to have a job. I still feel really guilty about that because Whitney is the only one that's working, but I'm thankful that she is not pressuring me. She's very patient with me. I will know when I'm ready. Like last week, we bought a car for me, which was a huge step because even for the longest time, which you would think that buying a car, anybody would be excited about that. But for the longest time, I did not want to buy a car. I didn't want to have a car. It freaked me out. Going car shopping, the thought of it. And then last week I felt ready and we bought a car and I love it. So, they will not shut up out there. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but that trash truck is very noisy. So just knowing that you'll know when you're ready. If you aren't working and you need to find a job, you'll know. And I haven't gotten there yet, and I'm trying to be okay with that. I'm trying to not beat myself up or feel really guilty for not working yet. But I'm still just trying to focus on myself and my recovery, slowly gaining some weight back, which sucks. I hate that. I won't ever be able to accept that. But I want to say again, like, I am not a doctor, so I just wanted to give you guys my story and a few tips that have helped me on my journey in recovery, and hopefully maybe I'll help someone, I don't know, or it's just good to even just talk about this and get it out there, because it helps you realize too that you never know what anybody else is really going through. Social media can be such a deceiving place. Like, you only see the good things. A lot of times people do not share their struggles personally on social media, and that's fine, but realize that you never know what someone is going through. So just be nice and be kind to one another, because you never know what they're going through. I think I will end my video there. It's still a journey for me. I'm not 100% better, and I don't say any of this for sympathy or to complain or for attention, but just to maybe help someone else who's struggling. If you want to private message me or whatever, I am here for you, and I would love to talk more if you would like to. Alrighty, if you watched this towards the end, I'm sorry it was so long, but I had a lot to say. So I love you all, and I appreciate all of you guys, all of my friends and family who have been with me through this very long and tiring and painful and sad journey, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, even if it doesn't feel like it. So you'll get there, I'll get there, we will all get there together by being kind to one another. All right, love you guys. Bye. Oh. I have to stop choking up. Why am I still? I can't breathe.